I'd like to call the meeting of the North Highlands Recreation and Park District to order. Second item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. So do we have any corrections, questions regarding the August 9th meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Chairperson's report? I don't think I have anything. But, I gotta tell you, I live, pretty close to Brock, where I go by it a couple times a week at least. I gotta tell you, having our new security has been tremendous. I've even seen him coming back from something one evening. He was out there in uniform and everything, identified, and he was writing tickets. And after that, I haven't seen, it's rare that I see anyone in that parking lot at night. I don't see that Volkswagen. And I know I've seen where she hung out in the morning. But no, I mean, I have been noticing that for our parks, it's really been making, ones that I've driven by, a tremendous difference.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. So hopefully, the good work, keeps up and we keep the unsavory types out of the parks. All right, do we have any comments from any of the board members? All right, reports from standing committees. So do we have anything on the agenda later for anyone this one? Okay, administrators report. Okay, Larry, do you have anything you'd like to expand upon or add?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
myself
he's been
organized,
busy.
yeah. Okay. All right. So I have I'd like to address some of the issues, if not all the issues that are on the agenda, and give you some updates, because things have changed since this agenda was sent out to the board last week. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Lakes at Antelope, which is the newest district residential development project. I met several weeks ago with Larry Lucero, who is the developer, and I'm glad I did. I've learned a lot of things I did not know, and some of those things became very important, and I think important for the district as we move forward. First of all, the project was revised from 304 homes to 281, and Mr. Lucero does not plan on developing this project, but currently is marketing it for sale. I understand he is the fourth developer to actually own this development. However, he seems to have already been negotiating, or maybe he has a deal with another developer, because he was quite certain that the project would break ground in early 2009, possibly as early as this spring. And to move the sale forward, all the conditions that were, the project was conditioned by the county. I remember about 50 conditions. 2 of those apply to our district, and those are the 2 that are keeping him from moving forward, and we're going to address those this evening. Conditions and I sent you a copy of those conditions. Conditions of approval, number 32, talks about equity fees, which I had mentioned to the board before, were at $3,059 per home. And I was not certain as to, since those were approved in 2006, whether that fee stood up or was it adjusted by inflationary factors or by some county indexing. I wasn't sure, and it took me 3 weeks at least to get an answer from the county, but I finally got one. Those fees do remain in place. And in talking to Blair Oss from SCI, he actually believes that we probably got a good deal on that, because that's based on land value. And he says, while they went down, they came back up, and he thinks that's probably a fair representation of the value. So based on 281 homes at $3,059 $3,059. It'd be approximately $859,000 to the district. That's a one-time fee paid to the district, and I understand that would be paid upfront. Or the district could opt to not take the money, but instead require the developer to provide the district with 4.65 acres of suitable land for development of a future park. My recommendation would be to take the cash. And the reason is we have a lot of parks right now that are underdeveloped, need to be redeveloped, and buying more bare land that we can't afford to do anything with. Well, maybe 20, 30 years down the road, if the district's finances become different, that might be a positive thing. But right now, we need to reinvest in our park system. So that certainly would be my recommendation to the board, is to accept the cash option as opposed to the park bill. Condition of approval number 33 requires the district to make a determination of whether they want to establish a CFD, which is a community facilities district, or a landscape and lighting assessment district, benefit assessment district. And for those in the audience, what those are basically is a fee that would be charged to each of the homeowners to provide maintenance for all the park and landscape improvements in each one of the developments. As the board knows, we established a CFD for the Alberta Park project, which is approximately 50% completed. There were some initial concerns I had because, as you know, this particular residential development does not include a park. Instead, what they opted to do, which is their right, is they put in ponds in a creek that will run the length of the development and be surrounded by green belts. So it's going to have a lot of greenery and trees, but you won't see children's playgrounds, you won't see ball fields, you won't see a number of things that are typical of neighborhood parks. Ball fields wouldn't be typical, but the things that you see at Alberta Park are not the things that are designed for this particular development. Again, we get back to this first of all, I'd say let's take the landscape and lighting district, assessment district off the table. You don't want to go that direction. That's more complicated, more restrictive, and not the best deal for the district, nor for the residents, to be honest with you. We've already established one CFD, and there were some concerns about the maintenance of the waterways, the creeks and the ponds. And I raised caution with the board that, thinking about some things that have been going on in Modesto and Stockton with some of their waterways, with the hydrilla overgrowth, the millions of dollars they sunk into it. Well, I had a lengthy conversation this afternoon with Blair Oss from SCI, who did our most recent CFD for the district. He says not to worry about that. He says there's several ways to handle that. One, he doesn't think that this is a big enough of a water feature to be concerned about. But he says as part of developing the CFD, we can put funds in there to, just as we did for the Alberta Park for future playground replacement, we can put funding as part of the maintenance fee to provide in the event something happens to the waterways, or something needs to be repaired, or something happens, we will have the funding source to address that. Or take some of those fees and buy an insurance policy in the event that if something were to happen, then the insurance policy would be the responsible party for addressing any of those concerns, provided that you could find somebody that would write that policy. The other things that you can. The third thing is, he said, is to simply take the money and bank it and just wait and see if something happens. He does not, he said he's done many CFDs in which there's water features, lakes and creeks and ponds. He says he's unaware of any problem that ever happened. He said the main thing is what we would do is make sure that the funding, the maintenance cost to the homeowners is sufficient enough that it gives us money to put aside, just like we did for the play equipment, where we can build a reserve in the event that we had to tap into that if something were to happen down the road. He convinced me, because I was being a little leery of it, but I'm more comfortable now going with that approach. Now, the way this for this project, if the board were to opt for the CFD, you have to do nothing at this point. Nothing will go into effect until until an owner purchases the existing development. However, what is required of us is to notify Mr. Lucero that what our position is on, conditions 32 and 33. So we did invite Mr. Lucero to come to this meeting. I had a discussion with Diane once we found out that he wasn't even going to be the developer. It didn't seem appropriate to bring someone in here that won't be the person that will ultimately be dealing with. And it would be more appropriate once it's sold to bring that developer in and then have those types of discussions. I still can't figure out, Terry went back and went into the archives and pulled up anything and everything that referenced this project. And there seemed to be, from around 2003 to 2006, significant discussion between the former administrator and the board, and mostly from the administrator to the county, opposing this being a gated community, which it is. But then all the correspondence stopped. We couldn't find anything from 2006 to 2018 about this project. And I don't know if those records are missing. By law, we didn't have to retain them that long anyhow. But when I shared it with Blair, he said it's more common than you think for developers to take a project that's been in the works for a while. They sell it, someone buys it, they finish off the conditions, and then when they wait till it's appropriate to begin the development, then they contact the parties involved. So he asked me he said something I should do, and I've already done it, is to contact the county and make sure that not only for this project, but any future development project that comes in our district, they are to put us on a mailing list to make sure that we get contacted as everybody else gets contacted, so we don't miss something that we should be certainly be aware of. So at least going forward with this project, the board needs to make a decision. One, I think condition 32 is decided, but as far as condition number 33, you have to decide whether, and again, those are the only two options. There was a third option that Blair said the developer could choose to do, but he said he wouldn't push it. And that is to ask is for us to do a CFD on everything but the waterways, and then make the developer get a homeowners association that would then. But he says when you start overlapping these things, he says you'll be surprised what things fall in between the cracks. What's supposed to this be covered by this one or that one? He recommended that we not do that, or at least suggest that. So that's it.
You said you could find stuff from 2003 to 2006 that it's not. Well, that's about the time they put everything on hold, and I'm thinking, let's put it on hold so nobody was going to do anything.
But what I had hoped to see something was some notification from the county or the developer, most likely it would come from the county, about the fact that the project had resurfaced again.
Right.
And it's been sold, and it's got the tentative map. I couldn't find anything that even said that we had, that the project had received a tentative map approval.
Right.
And for those that don't know, that's required before you can begin construction. So it's kind of the real important item, and we didn't have that. Couldn't find it. I don't think we received it.
So, okay, so when this originally did it, this was McCollum Business Park that was going to do it. So how many times is it sold now?
It was sold to a developer, I think it was Beamer, and Terry, do you remember?
Was it Beezer?
Was it? Lennar?
Lennar.
Lennar.
Okay.
I seem to recall
And Beamer, yeah.
when
Is it Beamer or Beezer?
Beezer.
I think it was Beezer and then Lennar, and when we were looking at the 4.56 acre park,
Right.
I think Mike and Sarah were on the committee.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know Mike was on it, and he said Lennar made, built good homes and this and that, because, and I, really listened to that since he's a licensed contractor. So, that gave it a lot of credibility at that.
From what I gathered from talking to Mr. Lucero. He's owned the property for a while and has been sitting on it, waiting for the economy to turn around. If the name sounds familiar to you, it turns out that I had talked to our legal counsel, who also is who represents the city of Wheatland as their acting city council, or city
County, city.
council, yeah, not council.
Yeah.
Yes. And Mr. Lucero had recently purchased over 2,000 acres in Wheatland for a future development there. But he, according to our legal counsel, he's known to purchase, get all the processes in order, sit on it, wait for the economy to turn around, and then flip it. So apparently that's what he did with this. He's had it for a while, and he just was waiting for the right conditions. I don't want to say for sure, but based on the conversations that I had with Mr. Lucero, it sounds like a developer that he is dealing with is one that would be familiar to the board. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So,
Because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
No, that's fine.
so as I understand this, then, you know, like you said, condition 32 is pretty much already done and said for. So no park, no waterways.
Well, 32 is actually the fee that's due. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a higher fee or had been adjusted.
Okay.
So 32 represents the fee that is going to be due to the district.
Okay.
Based on so many lots, right?
Lots and value, land value.
Right.
And 33 is basically what mechanism does the district prefer to have as the maintenance. And right now, we have already created a CFD for Elver Park. According to Blair, he thinks because this is very different from Elver Park, which is playground,
Right, yeah.
parkway, you know, that we would probably want to enter into a separate one. Don't piggyback off the previous one. Future parks, we would piggyback off
Right,
of
yeah.
Alberta. But he said this one here, we should enter a new one, and that I should advise Mr. Lucero, which I had already done once before, and I'll do it again, that the CFD process from beginning to end, as you know, is about 4 or 5 months. So if he's going to build, if something's going to break ground early next year, that sale has to happen awfully quick, because we have to then start, because we can't do anything until we have a new owner to,
Right.
as you know, to do the voting process for the fees.
So how would that affect the CFD if it's a gated community? Does that really affect anything, or?
No, that was a concern of mine as well, and I expressed it with the county and Mr. Lucero, and he said the gated community part had never changed, and according to some documents from 2003, 2004, it was still referred to as a gated community.
No, they fought that a lot.
Yeah, there was a letter from the previous administrator to Roger Dickinson, asking him to intervene to change this, and that was sent to the board as well. But apparently, what they did, the county approved. Technically, and it sounds funny saying it this way, the developer says, well, you know, the general public can use this facility, except at night we close the gates and they have to leave.
Right.
Sounds a little funny, but, you know, I guess it's legal to do it that way. So what I need from the board is to give me some authorization to tell Mr. Lucero which maintenance funding method that he would prefer. And
Theoretically, we can't vote on this. This is just.
no, but so all you have to do is, and that's what's going to come back to you in October, but that's all we'll be asking of you.
Okay.
So we go to CFD.
So do you want something tonight?
No. I'm going
Okay, I
to,
just want to clarify.
yeah, I'm going to let Mr. Lucero know that condition 32 is fine. Condition 33 will be put it on the October board for their approval.
Okay.
And I originally actually told him that it would probably be October, November.
Okay.
And he's still expected to come in October.
I don't know, well, it's up to you.
I
don't know if
the
they want
building
it
anymore.
I mean, I don't
Do
need it.
you think we need to have him?
No, I don't think so.
Because he's basically selling the property, and then you have to turn around and have that same meeting again with another developer who's going to actually make decisions.
Right. And it's almost everything's already kind of set anyway, except for the CFP.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I can't read your minds, but I kind of know where you'd like to go, but because we didn't put it on the agenda for you to vote, we'll have to bring it back to you.
Yeah.
So it's informational.
So the next item is the ADA consultant transition plan. We had, which I'll get in a little more involved in a minute here, the Capri District Visitation Report. But our district, as cities, counties, all government agencies are required to have a 5-year ADA transition plan. It was determined that ours had expired in early 2018. When we met with the Capri, they provided us with, for lack of a better term, an off-the-shelf ADA transition plan that we could complete ourselves. I think I mentioned that to the board a few months ago. We were prepared to begin that plan in September because it's about a 3-month process for us to do it because we have to wedge it in between everything else that we're doing. And as the board knows, that I'm now a board member for Capri. And at my very first board meeting, as we were voting on to interview and replace the current administrator, it was also on the agenda that the plan that had been previously passed out to other districts who also need to create a new ADA plan, we were told don't use it. And apparently, Capri's been providing that for several years to districts to use. What they determined was there's federal standards, ADA standards, and state standards. The one that they provided us covered federal, which they assume meant if it covers federal, then it covers all of California. Well, as it turns out, California actually has stronger requirements, more restrictive requirements than the federal government does. So, as part of that, Pat Kabulian, who is the retiring administrator, mentioned that at the last, I think, was it the market? I don't know if that was the conference that you went to or not, but a company called, where is it? Yes, thank you. DAC, which is disability, where I get it written down, I can't see it. Anyway, DAC provided a presentation for all Capri members, and from that they came back and said that they were, if district members would participate in their plan, have them do the plan for the district, they would offer a 10% discount. Pat also suggested to the board, they did not vote on it, but there was, from the nodding of the head, they were very much interested in doing so, and that is to add another 10%, so make it a 20% discount from the fee. And they used a formula that Capri puts together to determine what the estimated fee was. I know this sounds pretty strong, but it's $40,000 for our district before the discounts. That number could be slightly, which would reduce it to about $32,000. That number could be slightly higher, slightly lower, because if we elected to participate in that plan, they would come out and do a full assessment of all our facilities and tell us whether it's a little higher or a little lower. The reason they suggested DAC is DAC has the best track record of any ADA claims going to court of the districts or the government agency prevailing. And he went to great lengths to explain that regardless of what plan you use, if you go to court, if you're sued because of an ADA compliant issue, you would wish that the only thing you had to do was prepare for the court case. They said that the toll that it takes on staff having to do all the research and everything, he says is exhausting. And DAC will be the intermediary, what's the word for it? Intermediary. Thank you very much for that, and will shoulder a lot of that burden. And they also have the best track record for winning. And he said there are other, you can contract with other companies that can also provide the plan. He said he thought their price was well within the ballpark of the others, but with the discount there might be a little bit better pricing for districts. He told us that they require, there's I believe 60 members of Capri, of which we're one of. They needed 8 or so, I think, to do it. They had 5 already. I called Pat and said, I'm going to put it on our board's agenda. I said, count us in until I tell you to take us off. Because I want to make sure, because he said the earlier you get in, you'll be up front to get your assessment done. Right. So if we were number 23, I'd rather be number 7 or 6, which we are. So the board would need to make a decision. There's nothing you have to do tonight, other than the fact is, if you would like for me to pursue working with Capri, having us participate in this program, I would then come back at a latter point to get board approval to transfer funds from the contingency fund into an expenditure account that we can use. It's very expensive, it's not in the budget, but by law, we have to do it. And truthfully, I would rather do it right the first time than screw around with it and find out that, we try to save a few bucks. And I mean, what's kind of bothered me a little bit is that one of the employees who works for Capri told us that we needed to use this plan. And we were all prepared to begin that plan. And we could have put a month's worth of work into it, only to come back later and find out it was a waste of time. So I'm glad we caught it ahead of time. So there's nothing for you to do at this point of entering into a contract with DAC, but if you give me authorization to negotiate with them and get a price, then I will do so.
I guess I have one question, so I should know this. What's our policy say on dollar amounts for going out to bid?
I'll have to look at that.
Because that would be my only, I mean, if it's,
I think it's under. I'm pretty sure it's under because it's not a contract for developing like a building or something.
okay.
But certainly we'll have that come back to you with that.
Yeah, because I mean, for some reason, 25,000 sticks in my head.
I think 25,000 was the old number that we adjusted a couple years ago.
But that's what I don't remember what it is.
If it requires us to do it, then we'll have to do it. It's funny that in that conversation, that question didn't come up during any of the districts there, but I can certainly take a few minutes.
Theoretically, if it's, if it's over our threshold, our policy, we have to go out to an RFP and get.
The only way I can think about it is, and again, I'll talk to Pat, it could be that by getting the agencies together under Capri, is Capri going out, maybe we're reimbursing Capri.
Yeah.
So I can find that, I can find that out. But anyway, so just so we're all aware, we are exposed at this point in time to a claim. Doesn't mean every claim is, $100 million or something. But since I've been here, knock on wood, we haven't had any 88 claims. But we are slightly exposed. We're not the only one.
Right.
We are slightly exposed at this time until we get something in place. But I will check on that. Okay, in a related matter, we had our annual, I should say annual, it's every 18 months, Capri District Visitation Report, where they come out to our district, spend the afternoon with us, review all a series of binders and documents that we have to keep, from hiring practices to injury reports to safety meetings that we have to have. There's a series of things that they go through. And we actually found out we were tied with the highest score for all the agencies that were evaluated in that 18-month period. I don't know how many of those were. I think they stagger them probably a third of them, so about 20. The only thing that we had that we were dinged on was the ADA plan, and we're required to address that in a report back to Capri. I put it on your action in front of each of you. You see this letter to Capri. It acknowledges that we let it lapse, but it also stated that we were actually interested in going through Capri to resolve this issue, and if not, then the district will still resolve it, but maybe have to do it through a different company.
So, one question, your letter says it will be on the board agenda for tonight's meeting, and technically, it's not on the board agenda.
No, it's not.
Okay. Just want to clarify.
You don't, I went back and looked, you didn't actually approve the last time we did the report, so we got dinged on something back then too. I just gave you the letter and said how we addressed it, so I think this will satisfy that. I probably said it wrong. The next item is Proposition 68, Houston, Magnini and Associates. If the name Doug Houston sounds familiar to you a little bit, he is one of the authors of Proposition 68. I don't know of anybody that probably has more knowledge of Prop 68 than Doug does. He's been going all around the state prior to 68, giving presentations on it, trying to help public agencies get the word out and support it. As you know, Prop 68 did pass. So we were approached several weeks ago by Mr. Houston and his firm out of Sacramento to consider using them to be our point company to look at grant opportunities that the district may be highly qualified for, and they would develop the grant application, follow it through to the end, And they only get paid if we're successful. Unlike some companies where they're gonna get paid whether you get the grant or not. The amount was 2% of the total grant, or not to exceed a $25,000 threshold. So earlier today, we met again with Mr. Houston. We asked him to come back, and we were going to do a tour of the district facilities, the parks and our buildings and K Park and some others. And the one that he thought, well, he thought there were certainly possibilities of more than one. The one that he felt very strongly about was Sierra Creek. As you know, Sierra Creek Park is technically a park by name, but not a park by function. And it's almost right across the road from the new project.
Yes, so for those where this is, as Watt Avenue starts making the turn, you can see Spinelli Elementary School in that big empty lot. That's Sierra Creek Park.
It looks like there's a creek that runs through it. And across the street is the new development, the Lakes at Antelope. It'll be a curve there. We talked a little bit after our tour today, and one of the things he said was that he thinks that this has great potential from several fronts. One is one of the grants, the Prop 68 grants are going to be a series of different types of grants that will come out. It could be waterways, creeks, could be trails, could be new parks, new buildings, that sort of thing. And they're going to stagger these out over a period of years. But he said the one that he said that Sierra Creek, why it looked very promising, was it's an undeveloped park, and that's their highest priority, what they're looking for. Parks that are undeveloped. One of the things I do want to go back and do some research on, is it technically a park, or did somewhere along the line years ago the district just refer to it as a park? And so it's going to take a little research on my part. I wouldn't be shocked if we just started calling it Sierra Creek Park, but there may not be an official designation by the district.
Well, there is that little grassy area that,
But he said either way, he still feels very strongly about it. But it also, he said, would likely qualify for grants for creek restoration, also for trail systems, and especially since we don't really have a park that has designed for trails, walking trails, bike trails, and he thinks that this one has great potential for that. We may be able to apply for grant monies from all these different funding sources. And also keep in mind too that we will receive approximately $7,400 per home on park and lieu fees from the new development. That's about $2.1 million. You have to create a nexus between using those funds in that park. Well, guess what's the nexus? It's right across the street, Sierra Creek Park. So again, these numbers are rough, but I just want to put it on the table. We are already going to receive approximately $800,000 in Quimby fees, another 2.1 in park and lieu fees. So we're right about a $3 million threshold. Now, doesn't mean all of it has to be used for that. I don't see $3 million going into that, but that would address, I think, some park-related issues with that development. Because my concern is, as you know, almost directly behind the Walmart nearby is where the Alberta Park development is taking place. There's a new park that's not halfway, we drove by it today, it's totally under construction. But if we don't provide another park resource, those people from Lakes and Antelope are probably going to gravitate towards Alberta Park, and it's going to put a lot of heavy pressure on that park because it's the closest one. Now, on the other hand, we have K Park.
Right.
And we spent a lot of time at K Park today and going through, looking at the empty swimming pool, looking at playground potential. Scott discussed with him about how we could isolate some play area for the child care operation and then open up the larger area for the public to use. So there's a lot of great potential with that as well. And so that's also in your pocket. So I think no problem creating the nexus between those as well. But basically, from our tour today, he really was excited about Sierra Creek. And one of the things that, I don't know if it was an issue before or not, but sometimes when you get into Fish and Game gets involved, when you have creek issues and you know, the caterpillar, the butterfly, the shrimp, the fairy shrimp, and all these other things that might, believe, you know, some people get scared of that. Well, I've been involved with several of those before with Fish and Game. Actually, it's a real benefit because you can put money into it to restore it, but manage it, or you actually get them to abandon that, and you take the money you would put into it and you put it into another project. So I think that I would not worry about that. I think that that's a great potential to do something with that.
So is there room there for pool complex, and we could join the semi-unified, they can kick in 5 million, or something, you know?
Well, you know,
Knock down Spinelli, there'll be plenty of room.
You may, Cape Park maybe.
well, we've looked at several things. You know, Cape Park obviously had a pool there long before the neighboring district built their their water complex further down the road. The problem, you know, again, I don't want to, there's the pros and cons to it. We could probably have somebody come in and take a look at our old pool and just to see, you know, is it even worth putting any money into it to restore it? And what it costs. At some point, you know, the cost may be equal to putting in a new pool or close to it. And I think if the district ever was in a position to build a new pool, I think you'd want to centralize that pool within the district.
Right, but what I'm saying is Center Unified wants a pool for the high school, and if we can do it somewhere in their district boundary too, they can maybe kick in a few $1 million and we can get a nice facility.
You may remember, Scott and I met with him, was it probably 3 years ago, Scott? And we met with the principal, and we had that discussion with them. You know, for them to be a part, but at that time, they had the money, we had the money.
Right.
So we're doing a lot of talking, but nothing else. I just think that in the next several years, when you look at some of the revenue streams that are coming into the district, there's some things we could do. We don't have to have all cash to build a pool.
Right, no,
We
that's
can
fine.
finance it. But the district we're one of the few government agencies and one of the few districts that has no debt. And sometimes it's good to have debt.
Can you edit that?
We have no debt, which is good. That means we're not paying any loans or anything.
Right.
But I think that with the passage of Prop 68, again, you know, there's other grants that are going to be coming down the pipe that we don't know what they are yet. We also, he mentioned to us that we should be receiving our per capita grant funds, which are automatic. Could be as early as February. And Mark, what was it, $200,000 or $200,000? So, and that's we get just because we got so many people that
Just because we're nice. Yeah, I mean, the problem with the Cape Park pool, it's my understanding that's a 25-meter pool, not a 25-yard pool. So that wouldn't work for a lot of situations. The swim team?
Well, I'm not saying that you would use the same structure.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm just, again, I'm for a pool that, Scott, when did you say it was last year, or early 2000s? 2001?
Yeah,
For a pool that's been sitting there that long?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been probably when the base.
Yeah, it was about when the base was.
Yeah.
You know, to be really honest with you, it may not be practical. If that pool was only closed 3 or 4 years ago,
Right, I
it
understand.
might be. But, you know, we're far from that, but
So-
I think that the board's gonna be in a
Yeah.
position to make some really nice, fun decisions of money coming in and how we wanna allocate that money. Also, too, as a side note, I reread the 2006 District Park Master Plan.
Right.
It expires in 2 years. And I'll be honest with you, I think we can do a much better job on a master plan than what we received.
Yeah, we didn't have any money back then.
Yeah, well, one of the things I found, not to get off track, one thing I found severely lacking is it tells you what you can, it says some ideas of what you can do in all our parks, but it provided no specifics.
No.
When it says, oh, it'd be a great place to put ball field. Well, what kind of ball field? How many? You know, and the numbers that were thrown out, I think were very generously put in there as just big numbers.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's gonna expire in 2 years anyhow, so we're likely gonna have to go out and do a new park master plan pretty soon. Anyway, I think I got off track a little bit. I just wanted to share
Probably
that
my
with you.
fault.
Mr. Houston did inform us that I told him that we would be discussing this tonight. There's no decisions for you to make, but he would be drafting a contract for us with no cash involved, no payment by the district. It would just explain the terms of what he would do, and I would put that on the October board meeting for you. And he would show up to the meeting as well if you'd like to have him. And getting almost to the end here, guys. Swim team proposal. Last month, I shared with the board some discussions that.
You jokes.
Actually,
We're still in this question.
Attorney Lawson, go for it.
Oh, no, oh, okay. Yeah, we did that. I did. Just getting ahead of myself here, guys. A couple of things real quick. Freedom Park softball lease. Yesterday, we had, as you remember, we did an RFP for a new operator to manage the Freedom Park softball complex. Part of that RFP required that interested parties participate in a walkthrough meeting at the site where we would provide them a handout and discuss all the improvements the district has made, but most importantly, answer questions. We sent out 9 RFPs and we had 4 groups show up, which I think is probably a pretty good turnout. We walked through everything, we explained what was going on. Everybody that was there was familiar with the facility and the compliments that our staff received for the work that they've done and the contractors that we used to do it. They said it hasn't ever looked this good. And when they were there, the contractor had left, but we were just still putting on new siding on the building. Those bathrooms there, I tell you, they look clean enough to eat off of. They are, Sean did those, our facility supervisor. My goodness, that guy is talented, and they look wonderful. But the whole complex of Sergio and his park maintenance staff have done a fantastic job. So we walked them around, we walked the facility, we let them go through the building, we answered questions. And I think everybody was excited until they saw the last guy show up who walked there. And I think he's the big operator in Sacramento. In fact, he made it very clear he was. But there's someone there who is strongly interested, and in fact, he said he's ready to turn in his paperwork now. I believe they have to the 22nd or the 24th to submit their documents. The financial documents are not what the district would use solely as a basis of selecting an operator. But what I would like to do, and I want to get some feedback from the board, would you like to have an interview process where the entire board interviews the candidates? Would you like to have several board members be appointed to do that? Or is that something that you would like to have staff do and then come back to the board? I would really like to see some board participation.
Well, I was going to suggest one of the committees, probably
Yes,
facility development.
facilities.
That's you two right here. And by the way, I do want to, my esteemed colleague here found an error in this, that I don't know if this is.
Only one?
Well, it's a key word that's missing.
Oh,
A not that should be in there, and the word not is not in there.
oh. Well, if you point that to me at the end of the night, I'll make sure it's correct.
We'll give you an update. You can use my, you can have my copy.
Okay. But anyway, that's that's part of the RFP process. We explained to them that they would be interviewed, and then the board would ask me to come back and negotiate terms based on a preferred applicant that you have, and then bring that back to the board and ratify the contract. Without a doubt, almost every one of them there said, the sooner we can get in, the better.
Oh, yeah.
Because I suggested that we might not have the contract ratified for them to come in until December, and they said we could fill that park up next month,
Exactly.
next week.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see this be a fairly fluid process. One thing we can't change is the deadline for submitting the RFP response, but I'm prepared to schedule a interview based on our board's availability as soon as possible after that.
Well, Madam Chair, do you agree?
Yeah,
Facility development?
facilities, yeah.
So Pedro and Zach,
Pedro and Zach.
and just let me know, evenings, I know you're school teachers, evenings would be preferred.
Yes, after, for me, after 6.
After 6 o'clock.
Football practice.
Football, yeah.
Okay.
So.
What I'll do is, once we receive the interested,
He doesn't
interested
play,
parties.
he's coach.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I know. He's like cracking up and saying, when he plays football.
I did play safety today, I had no practice.
Anyway, once we receive that information, I will contact you directly and give you some dates and times, and we'll find out what works best for you. I think it's something we probably can, you know, if all four turn the documents in, I think we can knock it out in one night, so anything less than that, we can certainly do in one night. Okay, I think the last thing is I just want to let the board know that I'll be on vacation from tomorrow through next Wednesday. And Travis knows where I'm going to be at, he won't tell anybody. Or something.
I'm assuming Scott's in charge?
No, Mark is in charge. I switched it around.
My wife.
So when I'm in Colorado in November, Mark will be running this, Scott's running the last two meetings, I believe, and so Mark will get a chance to run the November meeting in my absence. If you still would like to have to do that, we can certainly have Terry do that if you'd like.
That could be a switch.
All right.
Y'all will be talking.
But fast forward. Yeah, Scott had told me that I almost forgot the most important document. You guys, well, the board is aware that we entered into a contract with SMUD for the lights and ball fields. That was just a ridiculous deal that was.
Oh, God.
And it came all together so quick, because I think I might have shared with the board, I actually said, no, don't pursue it, because I just didn't see the real benefit. Initially, it was to replace the metal halogen lights with LED lights, and it was put this way, the final deal was a great deal. For less than $10,000 at the district cost, we're going to get $60,000 of all brand new lighting and for four ball fields. Where that's critical, and these guys knew this. Some of these guys didn't are familiar with this. The difference is significant from several factors. One is that the lights themselves have a life expectancy of 50 to 60,000 hours, where the ones we use now are probably less than 3,000. The new lights don't have ballast. That's something I did not know, is that when the lights go out, the ballast continue to run 24/7. They don't stop. Or if your ballast goes out, your light bulb still may be good, but you won't know that.
Right.
And so when you replace the light, generally you're replacing the ballast, so you get two costs. Every time we bring a lift out there, it's $500 to $600 a day, Scott. So these lights, and I did some real rough calculations, these lights could last 8 to 10 years before they ever need to be replaced. The energy savings is a real important factor. They used our numbers, which our numbers were skewed a little bit because for part of the year, the lights, when the previous operator left, they weren't being used, but we were able to give them enough information where, the minimum savings is about $1,000 a month, and it's likely more than that. So somebody that's looking at this as a lease already sees that, one, they don't have to put new lights in. These lights probably won't be changed for a really long time, and they're going to see immediate payback savings just from the energy savings. And so when Scott and Sean pushed me on it, and I give them credit because they did, they pushed me on it. We sat down and invited them to come talk to us, and it just seemed like a ridiculous deal at that point. I said, okay, I got to go talk to my board. And luckily for us, we already have a project in place in which we could fit this under. And how many, 3 to 4 weeks to install everything?
Actually, the install will go less than that, probably about a week.
About a week.
Yeah. We just have to wait till they have to order the.
Right.
As soon as they get a check from us, then they'll order everything and get going. And so anyway, the potential operators are extremely excited about that. So good things are happening.
So since you're talking about SMUD, does SMUD have any deals for us to put solar on top of our buildings? Is that ever been
We did discuss solar, but we did discuss looking at, especially the community center.
Right.
There's different deals available for that. This one was kind of specific to ball field.
Right, no, okay.
But yeah, we've already asked to continue having discussions about our major buildings,
Yeah.
retrofit. We may not get the deal we got on this one, but I think there's room for significant savings.
I mean, I went to a conference over the summer, and this guy from, I believe, the New York area, he was saying when he flew into LAX, he sees all these commercial buildings without solar on them, and we just put solar on all these buildings and solve so many more problems. And it's like, We just gotta start thinking.
Well, one thing I wasn't aware of, that the PG&E is obviously a for-profit company, but SMUD is not.
No, it's a special district.
They're a nonprofit.
No, it's-
And so they had set aside, I think, was it $300,000 or something to do something with, with districts and cities and counties and for this money. We're the only one who took them up on it. And they were afraid that if we didn't do this, that money would be diverted for another project.
Right.
And so the only thing is that once installed, we have to let other people come and take a look at it and salivate a little bit. Wish they had gotten the deal.
No, I mean, and that's it. I mean, SMUD's a special district. I mean, they're gonna be at the CSDA conference. So I mean, if we can get some kind of thing, start putting solar on all of our, on here, community center, K Park, I mean, we're gonna start saving money too in the long run.
We're heading in the right direction.
Okay.
A lot of good things are starting to happen.
I know you've got a lot on your plate right now.
Oh, no, we're pursuing it. They told us, can we finish this deal first and then we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Yeah, we were pushing it already.
No, I was going, what else can we get in this deal?
I think I'm done now.
All right.
You let Scott talk?
Scott?
I've got nothing to add.
Well, Scott does have something to add, but I'll share it. I'll speak for it. If you noticed, when you came in, did you see some of the landscaping
Yes.
torn up?
Right there, yeah.
So we're finalizing the plans from our landscape architect. And we said, listen, we need to see how difficult it is to get this stuff out. Are the roots shallow or are they deep? So we asked one of our part-time maintenance guys just to take a small little area and open it up and pull a few roots out and see what we got. Well, I came in at 7 o'clock this morning and I could hear the chainsaw before I got out of the truck. And he had what you saw, he had that already knocked out. And so we talked to him, well, stop what you're doing right now. We're not trying to take it all out right in a second. We just want to test it. And he had the same space with all the roots out a couple hours.
Yeah.
So we weren't sure if we had, I was uncertain whether to have our guys bring a bobcat in or a backhoe because I was worried about damaging the turf and damaging the sidewalk. But I think based on what we saw today, our guys can, it's taxing, but I think they can knock it out by hand.
Okay.
And so we want to get all that out of there. So once we get the final plans, probably in October, we can have our staff begin putting in the new landscaping, Xeriscape with bolters and or the new sign, which we'll talk about later. Thank you, Scott. You did a great job.
Are you presenting for Mark too?
No, I'm not going to. I'm not. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, yeah, I don't really have anything to add.
Well, you said you didn't have anything to add, so I had to do something.
So I do have a question for Scott. So
Yes.
the two break-ins, have we heard anything back from those yet?
It's an ongoing investigation.
Okay.
I don't want to say too much because I know this gets broadcast literally all over.
Right, I know. Yeah.
I think it's going to be resolved quickly
Okay.
by the proper authorities. But
Good, okay.
the nice thing is the cameras were invaluable in helping us determine who and how.
Yeah.
Mark has turned into a junior CSI and really is kind of taking the ball and running with figuring out who the unknown subject is. And,
Okay.
not only have the Fulton El Camino Police been engaged, but the Sacramento Sheriff's Department has been engaged.
Perfect.
So,
Thanks.
Good job, Mark.
really paid off.
Is there anything from you, Mark? besides
I have
your
nothing else,
recent
I have
items?
nothing else to add, sorry.
All right. Is everyone in the audience from the North Highlands Dolphins? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna move. You have been so patient. Usually our comments are
Wait a minute,
gone.
you didn't ask Terry.
Okay.
Okay.
Terry and I have to say. You know. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna take item 10A out of order to let our guests from the Dolphin swim team, speak on item 10A. So Larry, did you want to go first, or was was
Madam
sent
Chair,
up.
is it really out of order? I mean,
No.
all you got is
No,
talk about
this is
correspondence and
correspondence,
comments.
and I mean, we can go our, discuss this more in correspondence from your office.
Well, I'm
And
just saying, it's just
talk.
correspondence and then.
Yeah, well, no, let them go.
Oh, no, I'm not, I'm just saying, it's pretty much their turn anyway.
I'm surprised you stayed awake this whole time.
I'll be brief with my comments. As board members, last month I made a presentation to the board that based on a meeting that Mark and I had previously had with the former president, they had just had elections the other night, and another board member, that we learned a lot more about the swim team operations, their needs, and some challenges that they were facing. So I presented those to the board last month with the idea that I would come back to you with a more specific proposal. And I just want to quickly touch on those items. One was the swim team registration fees. We are recommending that we roll the fees back. We anticipate that this would result in a revenue loss to the district of probably $5,000 or $6,000 based on last year's swim team enrollment. But as we talked to the board before, we think this is important to not let this program become so costly that it keeps families and kids from participating. So the rates, proposed rates were 100 for individual swimmer, 180 for two swimmers from the same family, and 85 for 3 swimmers or more. The other item was, which we spent a lot of time talking about, was equipment purchase. This is a very expensive sport. This is not basketball where we go buy t-shirts and jerseys and basketballs and we use the gym. There's significant costs, and there's hard costs, which the board is familiar with, and I think the swim team is now too, and soft costs. Well, those hard costs, you could fundraise for several years and not generate enough money to buy the things that are necessary. So the proposal simply is that where there are purchases in which can serve the swim team, but also when the swim team's not using that equipment, can also be used by the district if they need it, then that might be something the district would consider having us buy and then letting the swim team use during their season. So that's the equipment recommendation, is to go in that direction. The other one, which is the annual swim team crab feed funding. As I mentioned to you, the swim team has to hold back funds every year so they can pay for the crab before the season starts, which basically means they have a significant amount of money that can't be utilized for swim team purposes. So the recommendation would be that not to exceed $7,000 that the district would front those fees from our budget, and then through the ticket sales and other things that the swim team does for generating revenue, would then pay the district back. But what, in doing so, that immediately frees up those funds for the district, or for the swim team to use for things that they need to operate. The other one was, which didn't seem to be a major thing, but maybe will be down the road, and that's swim team storage. We have a large building located behind K Park, which certainly could house all the equipment should the swim team want to leave it there. We do understand that they have storage on site or at the school that they use for swimming, and it's convenient to have it there. But if that ever changed, school districts decided they didn't want it there or something, we want to let them know that we could certainly house that equipment for them. And I believe that that is the gist of it. At this time, we're not if the board decides to go in this direction, we're not asking you to make any financial decisions tonight. We will sit down with the swim team, talk about equipment needs. We will talk about the, when they need funding for the crab feed, and when we can, making the adjustments for the swim team fees will be part of our fee structure when we come back to the board later on. When we talk about all our fees, we try to do them all at one time, but if we need to move this one up, we certainly could. But anyway, that was what the proposal is, and we advised the swim team of this and invited them to have representation come to tonight's meeting and talk to the board and answer the questions you might have.
All right.
Voting like the old days.
Oh, yes.
That's what you're trying to do. Yeah, you can't sit down. I'll start. Travis Bill. I've been the coach, the head coach of the Highland Dolphins swim team for the past 2 seasons. Most of you know I've been around here for a very, very, very long time. Not only as an athlete with the team when I was 5 years old, and back as a parent. So I'm probably pushing 30 years involvement with this team through the years. But I just want to say thank you in everything that the Parks and Recs is doing, the support we've got from the board, and definitely the support we get from your staff is not going unnoticed, and it's really appreciated. We've spent a lot of hours working with every athlete we have, all the parents, trying to do these different community events, trying to drum up participation for this team. And it's a year-round process, and we take it serious. And for the past 2 years, we've done very well. This year, in case you haven't heard, we actually missed out on second place at championships by 1 point. We only lost 1 swim meet during the actual season, so we went 4-1 on the season and got third place by 1 point. But I'm just saying we got second place regardless. Technicality, I had a swimmer that didn't show up, and some DQs I couldn't get overturned, and there you go. So, but just want to get up and say, hey, we appreciate everything you guys are doing, and we continue to look to build this relationship and move forward and grow this team, and it's a great program for the community, probably one of the largest ones, and definitely one of the longest running ones. I think this was our 50-year anniversary with this team. I believe it started in 1968, so it's a long-running program for the Parks and Recs office, and it's a good program. So I just want to say thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Rosalie Buzzarani, and I'm the new chairperson for the swim team for the board. And my daughter is 13. She's been swimming with dolphins since she was 6, in the 6 and unders. And it has been amazing having Travis as a coach for the last couple of years. There's been a lot of improvements with the team, and I want to say thank you too for taking into consideration everything that Larry has brought to your attention. It would really, help the swim team to have like those crab feed funds for things such as the ribbons. We're gonna have to buy ribbons, which could be 1,000, 1,500, so that money that we have can be very beneficial to pay for things like that, because the crab feed, we kind of hang on to that until the crab feed, which is usually in February. This year it's going to be February 23rd, so it's really, really beneficial for you to be able to do that for us. This is one of our other board members, Andrea, and we just wanted to come out here and just say thank you for everything, and look forward to partnering with you all. So.
And we'd love to see all of you at the crab feed.
Yeah, absolutely.
we gotta get a tradition going on, right?
Exactly.
Diane will be there.
Diane's
Yeah,
there,
I will.
Pedro's there, but
Pedro
we're
will
missing
be
a few
there.
others.
It is our biggest fundraiser for our swim team, so we really, really love to have you there.
Oh, it's an excellent one. So the community that doesn't come out, they're really missing out. I mean, it's awesome crab. Yeah, you're the poor kids that have to go and take all my shells. And people working. So, all right. So do we need to take action on the swim team proposal?
Well, essentially, each of those items will come back to you in a different way. What we want to do tonight is just get your support that we're going in the right direction and that you approve this approach. And then as the fee structure comes up, we'll bring it back to you and we'll highlight that so you can see it with the crab feed. We can put in for a transfer of funds so we can move some funds and put them in place so we can pay some bills when necessary. And the equipment, we need to sit down and talk to the swim team about the equipment. We've talked in general terms, but we don't know specifically what the needs are. So we'll be coming back to you probably the next couple of months.
So does anyone have any questions to staff?
No, I'm just going to let the new board members know. If Travis didn't tell you, I was the swim team parent board chair for 3 years.
Oh, really?
Both of my kids started on the Highland Dolphins. And they both became swim instructors and lifeguards, so it's going to be a good job to run into teenagers.
That tends to be the trend for.
Yeah, I just have something real quick. I'm just trying to figure this out. So later on down the line, what we're saying is we'll see some kind of line item thing where we'll say, and what we need is a chair, or what we need is a pop-up tent, or what we
Or
need
a
is.
couple around timing system.
So we're not doing none of that.
No, because one, as I said, we have to talk to the swim team in specific about the equipment. So what happens when we do that, and we put that list together, we'll include what the estimated costs are, come back to the board and let you know what they are, where the funds would be coming from, if we have to transfer funds out of contingency to pay for that, or there's other sources that we could pay for that. So they're gonna stagger back to you.
Because the two things I do see is definitely, keeping this registration fee goes from whatever it is now to $100. So what is the,
It would be 145 or something. It's easy.
so it's 145, and then obviously, it's almost like, it almost seems like the other thing is just like a no interest loan, if you will, right, for the crab
For the
fee.
crab fee, basically.
So that's-
Keep in mind, the swim team is a district program, so essentially, you look at it, we're buying the crab for one of the programs.
Right.
But one of the way it's structured would be the money from the ticket sales and from other sources, once collected, comes back to us. And in some ways, we'll actually be collecting those fees ourselves because we are, if we haven't done so, we're doing so. Putting the crab fee tickets, you can do it online through our department.
Cool.
Yeah, they are.
So right now, every year, the swim team carries a balance of about $7,000 just to pay for that. So then, beyond this, then you would just be carrying a balance of $0 every year.
Well, no, we still have a balance, you know,
Or
in our base.
some, but it's just, you're setting aside $7,000 every time.
They can't,
So we
they
can't do
can't use
anything.
their $7,000 to buy the next season, the ribbons and things like that, trophies, probably not that.
Yeah, so when you
It's
get
an operating, it's a cash flow thing.
When you get towards the end of the season, there's a lot of expenses that come up with our awards night, buying trophies and ribbons and medals and everything else we do and put back into the athletes. So a lot of times it ties our hands a little bit because we know we have, say, a $6,500 bill or a $5,500 bill for crap that's gonna happen in February.
You can't touch those funds.
And I can't touch those funds because I don't want to get to that point, like I don't have this money, because a lot of that money is collected at the door. So by the end of the night, we have more than enough money, but it's just like, it gets very tight.
It's a cash flow issue.
It's a cash flow thing in July when we have championships.
So I'm gonna make a suggestion that when you come back to the board after talking to the swim team, that the swim team maybe put together kind of a rough budget on what they're gonna be doing with their funds and things, so we get an idea,
Big picture.
the big picture. So, we'll do that,
Is that, you're good? So is everyone pretty good to
Yeah.
So we'll look at this,
staff
Move forward.
work it out?
Yeah, move forward.
Yeah, over the next couple of weeks, Mark's going to be the point person, and he'll meet with the swim team representatives. They'll start looking at a list of equipment, and then I'll look at it, and if I have any questions, we'll get it to the point where we can finalize it, bring it back, because we have to attach the numbers to it. You have to know where the money's coming from to pay for it. And I think probably not pressing it the second, but probably within the next, do you normally pay your crab fee the night of the crab? Yeah, so probably the next couple of months, we'll do a fund transfer, so we put funds in an expenditure account, so it's there when we have to pay for it. I think the rest is just gonna kind of work itself out. The fees are gonna be part of the total fee package when we come back.
All right, thank you. So, thank you for coming, and
you so much.
you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Okay, we're gonna go back to, item. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know, and Sue Frost is still
Hey.
meeting in right now.
See you next.
Nice. Okay, item number 7A, under correspondence, letter dated 7/31/18 from the County of Sacramento Department of Finance regarding the year-end interest apportionment for the full investment fund, so it is what it is. You know, this is just a receive and file type of report right now, and
Yeah.
so this is
The
just.
county has to
informational.
send this out to anybody.
So, you know, interest rates have been really low for
No, it's
a
not.
couple of, you know,
It's going
a
up.
couple decades, so
It's
it
going up.
is, you know, it
I
is
actually-
going up, but
I actually review the monthly investments for the county, so I can see it, so.
it's going up? Well, that's, from what I learned in economics, that's not a good thing. So, item 7B, letter dated 8/24/18 from Creative Connections Arts Academy, request for crafting fundraiser in the community center, which is under new business, so we'll discuss it then. 7C, email dated 8/31/18 from the Office of Planning and Environmental Review, request a fee waiver for a workshop in the recreation center, which is also under new business. And, item 7D, letter dated 8/28/18 from, Kay Dayhill. Kay Dayhill, former administrator who retired a few years back, sent us a very touching letter to the district staff and the board, thanking her for us wanting to honor her service with the North Highlands community. And she was, my understanding, extremely touched when she found out that we wanted to name the community center after her, so. And I'm looking forward to getting that. So, item number 8, comments and reports from citizens and organizations. Did you want to say anything? Okay. Anyone, I don't ignore you. Unfinished business, we don't have any. We already covered 10A, 10B. Community center sign wording, the board is going to discuss and take action to approve staff recommendation for the proposed sign wording. So in our packet, we have the wording, so is everyone comfortable? Thank you. So, second?
Yeah.
Okay, is there any further
Yeah,
discussion?
the only thing that we're still gonna put some kind of a line. Okay, so are we gonna see what that's gonna say?
So you'll, just like, once we get the, we'll have Kevin Leamy, who's our landscape architect, we're gonna have him kind of superimpose the KF Dayhill on the
Right.
sign, so you, and I'll send it out to you so you can see what it's gonna look like. Once we do that, now we're gonna have to work on what we want the language to be.
Terry should write that.
Well,
I would understand that.
I would make a suggestion that maybe someone from the board would want to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I would like to see that, and I would maybe
Yeah.
like to make some additions too.
Yes, we could put a draft together that you guys can certainly, look at and approve upon.
Okay.
But I think that we want to do this fairly quickly because brass plaques usually take almost as long as the signs do to put together.
So on the actual signage, are we gonna have our logo on one side somewhere?
We talked about that and I took some initiative, maybe I should have. I told him, I said, you might not want to put the logo on. The reason he showed me some samples of signs with the logo,
Okay.
and it just didn't fit. It just, because we already have the name of the North Highlands Recreation, or excuse me, we have a sign on top of the community center right now. It just seemed like it was a little, it just didn't fit well with the sign design. If you have an interest.
I would like to see both
Okay.
options, actually.
Okay, so I'll have put together both options and we'll bring it back to the board.
Okay.
It just, when he showed me some signs that had it,
I mean, I know Sunrise has them on theirs, and I think if this is the same kind of signage we're thinking of.
the only thing I thought about, I mean, maybe I should be careful what I say, but I don't want to offend anybody. In the event that the district ever wanted to change its logo,
Yeah,
you put it into something on a sign like that that's permanent,
right.
that kind of like, okay, well, we can't change that easy, where you put the logo in your maintenance.
Right,
structure, that sort of thing.
That's gonna be a few years and you're gonna get a new one.
Yeah, so, I mean, but certainly let's have him put
we can have Mark come up with a new logo, so.
What?
He's got nothing else to do.
Well, we did think about sometime to actually have the board look at potential new logos. Now, it could be that you could get a logo in the future that you could actually come back and have mounted on the sign.
Right.
But, and I don't know how old our logo is, but it does look pretty dated.
It's been the same logo since I've been on the board.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing is you can contact the local high schools and have
Have contact.
like a contest. So, and whoever wins, we give them a free t-shirt with a logo on it.
Regardless, I'll have them do it both ways with the board.
Okay, I appreciate it.
And I'll just email those to you, and you can give me your comments, because we might have time to come back to the board again.
All right.
Okay, are there any more comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay. So item 10C, Community Center Building Fundraiser Request, the board discussion action to consider approving this request for a fundraiser in the community center. So,
Motion to approve.
okay, second, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye, motion passes. Okay, item 10D, Recreation Center, building fee waiver request. Board action to consider approving this request for a fee waiver in the community center. So, Larry, do you want to comment on?
Motion to approve.
Okay, so,
No comment.
no comment, okay, but I have I second, a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
It's actually the, it's a recreation center, not the community center.
It's right here.
It's a,
Yeah.
Dan's a community center.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, wait,
It's right.
it's rec center, I'm sorry, in the title says recreation center, but the description says community center, that's why I read it, okay. So we will, I correct that, it is in the recreation center. Okay, we got a motion second, any additional further discussion? All those in favor? Aye, motion passes. Item 11, payment of bills. So, does anyone have any questions of staff in regards to the billing report? Hi, Alan.
No, it's not really the billing report, but so it was my understanding for Fulton El Camino that we may generate income through them too. Have we seen anything?
They've not given us a report on it, has Jeff?
No.
Okay, but we know that they have been issuing citations.
Right, okay.
Whether or not they have collection on the site,
Right, no,
that's a different story, so
I'll follow up with my contacts and bring it to you.
Yeah, just kind of, because, you know, we have the fee we pay them, and I'm just curious to see if we start seeing anything. I'll make a motion to ratify payment of the bills.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. The next regular meeting of the Board of Directors will be on October 11, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. in the North Highlands Recreation Center at 6040 Watt